All right, so moving on to the next segment, we're going to pivot over here to the world of MMA inside the UFC world, and I'll be sharing my UFC fight prediction between Max Holloway and Charles Olivera. So Max Holloway will be defending his BMF title against Charles Olivera in the main event slot of UFC 326. Now, these are the following storylines heading into this big monumental lightweight fight between the two respective fighters. Storyline number one is, can Charles Oliveira avenge his 2015 loss against Max Holloway? Now, it's crazy to think that these guys even shared the octagon with each other, because if you go back 11 years now, 11 years ago, where Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira fought each other before being the big mainstream stars, taking over divisions, kicking asses, and taking names, they did share the octagon with each other in 2015. Now, the fight was very short-lived because it ended up with the decision of Max Holloway defeating Charles Oliveira by technical knockout, but he didn't technically knock him out. The fight ended due to a shoulder injury that Charles Oliveira sustained in the octagon in the first round. It was a collarbone injury, which made Herb Dean stop the contest, and it was labelized as a Max Holloway technical knockout victory. And when you think about matchmaking in the UFC, where the best of the best fight each other, it's actually crazy that Dana White and the rest of the UFC executives never booked or try to make an effort to make this fight happen again between Max Holloway and Charles Olivera. So now it's 11 years in the making, and you have one of the biggest fights that are going to be made at the lightweight division between two future Hall of Famers, and Max Holloway and Charles Olivera. So we're going to see if Charles Olivera can rewrite his accidental wrong by defeating Max Holloway this weekend in UFC. And the next storyline is, not only is this a big fight between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira, the BMF title is on the line, where you will be determined, the winner will be determined as the baddest motherfucker, but the winner of this fight will most likely be in the mix for a lightweight title opportunity by the end of 2026 or early 2027, because both guys are top 5 fighters at the lightweight division. And this division is now heating up because Ilia Topuria has now put away all the outside noise with his family, his ex-wife, his children. All that is set aside, and he's set to return back to the UFC octagon. Meanwhile, while all that was happening, you had Justin Gaethje defeat Paddy Pimblett back in January to become the interim lightweight champion. So Ilia Topuria will most likely defend the title next against Justin Gaethje, whether it's at the White House or down the line in 2026. That's going to be the next championship fight. But the winner of this fight could get the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje next. So not only is that BMF title on the line, but a possible shot at the winner of Topuria and Gaethje is also going to be on the line in this big lightweight fight. But enough of the storylines. Let's get to the tail of the tape here. Starting off with the challenger, Charles Oliveira has a record of 36 wins, 11 losses, 10 victories come way of knockout, 22 submission victories. Currently the third ranked lightweight contender in the lightweight division today. He stands at 5'10" with a reach of 74 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion here, Max Holloway. Max Holloway has 27 wins, 8 losses in his MMA career, 12 victories come away of knockout, 2 submission victories. Currently the 4th ranked lightweight contender and the reigning defending BMF champion, stands at 5'11" with a reach of 69 inches. So the height goes in favor of Max Holloway, but the reach goes in favor of Charles Oliveira heading into this BMF title fight. Now, game plans for these respective fighters to follow. We'll start off with the challenger, Charles Oliveira. I think Charles Oliveira has to fight in different lateral movements. Now, in that octagon, you are getting in there with one of the most dangerous strikers that the UFC has ever seen in Max Holloway. You got to fight in different lateral movements. You cannot be a sitting duck wanting to fight fire with fire, standing and not moving much against Max Holloway. So he's got to fight in different lateral movements, and he's got to avoid the big shots that Max Holloway is going to be looking to land, the home run shots. And Charles Oliveira has stood in there with some of the best lightweight fighters of all time, but some of the best strikers in UFC history. We're talking about Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, hell, even Topuria, and several others. Like, he's got to avoid the big significant strikes, the power shots that Max Holloway is going to want to land. I can get it. You want to entertain the crowd. You want to entertain the UFC fans watching around the world. But at the end of the day, you got to make a smart business move here. You can't sit there and engage in the pocket with Max Holloway. You got to fight in different lateral movements to avoid getting hit with the big strikes. And plus, his chin has been exposed several times in the octagon. Like, I get it. He's defeated some of these best strikers of all time, but you can't play with fire when you talk about Max Holloway trying to win a counter-striking battle or a striking battle with one of the most fearsome strikers of all time. Next, land the takedowns. Now, the grappling and the wrestling is Charles Oliveira's bread and butter. Use the grappling background to slow down Max Holloway landing takedowns and slow down that fast offensive style that Max Holloway possesses. Now, you can land the takedowns and gain ground control as this fight goes on. That's what Charles Oliveira is best at. Land the big strikes, land the big strikes. Once you land the takedowns in the mount, on top, on the side mount control. You got to do anything you can, gain ground control to slow down Max Holloway, keep him grounded, and land some ground and pound strikes while you have him occupied on the ground to slow down the fast-paced offensive style that he possesses. Last, I'm going to say shoot for submissions, because this guy is one of the most crafty submission grapplers that the UFC has ever seen. I mean, you got to shoot for some crafty submissions. The crafty specialist in UFC history, earning 22 submission victories in his MMA career. And you got to shoot for some of your best moves. It's some of your best submissions if you're Charles Oliveira. Like, you got to shoot for the standing rear naked choke. You got to shoot for the guillotine or the rear naked choke to slow down Max Holloway, and that could possibly earn him a submission victory if Max Holloway cannot fight out of some of these submission holds that Charles Oliveira can shoot for. And if you're not going to get the submission, breathing down Max Holloway's neck with these submissions is going to make him lose a lot of energy, lose his burst and his ability to have that fast-paced offensive style if you take him away on the ground, shooting for submission to wear down the champion Max Holloway here. So those are game plans for Charles Oliveira. Now, to the champion Max Holloway here, I think he should target the body. Now, I think that's going to be Max Holloway's best strategy for success, to target the body here. Now, I want to say for the 2.5, 3 minutes of footage that we've seen with these guys sharing the octagon with each other, again, that was before they became household names and future icons and legends in the UFC. But for the film that we have, for the 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes that these two respective fighters shared the octagon with, Max Holloway was targeting the body and having success landing body shots. So I think he should go back to that. Tag Charles Oliveira, whether it's with body punches, leg kicks that can slow down the rhythm of Charles Oliveira, making sure that he doesn't move around swiftly how he wants in the octagon. Move around swiftly in the octagon. That would be a really good key ingredient for success if you're Max Holloway fighting Charles Olivera. So I think you should target the body with some power shots, some calf kicks, some body kicks to slow down Charles Olivera. And also, he's got to blitz Charles Olivera. Like, I think blitzing is what Max Holloway does best in the octagon, but blitzing Charles Olivera, making sure that he's in control, fighting coming forward, making Charles Oliveira fight off the back foot, that's going to be very important for him. And plus, Max Holloway averages 7.2 significant strikes per minute. So this guy is very active, very hands-on in the action, and can really fight in the orthodox or southpaw stance. So I think blitzing Charles Oliveira, fighting in either stance, and landing a lot of significant strikes, again, 7.2 significant strikes per minute, and the striking is his bread and butter. Definitely got to do that, and he could do that laying the jabs, laying the lead hooks, laying leg kicks, the body kicks, the calf kicks, and slow down Charles Oliveira as much as he can as this fight continues. And last but not least, he's got to stuff the takedowns here, because you know that Charles Oliveira is not going to sit there for 3 to 5 rounds trying to outstrike you. That's not happening. So he's got to be prepared and be alert defensively to stuff the takedowns. Now, Charles Oliveira will be looking to slow down Max Holloway's high-volume offensive style. So at times where Charles Oliveira could be hurt, in trouble, hurt with some significant strikes that Max Holloway could possibly land, he's got to be alert defensively and stuff the takedowns and be prepared to work for 5 rounds with that high volume work rate. And that's why he's one of the most active offensive fighters that the UFC has ever seen. And I think stuffing the takedowns to remain in control in the fight, making sure the fight is kept standing for as long as possible, is going to be the key ingredient for Max Holloway to win this fight. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Max Holloway to defeat Charles Olivera by decision to retain the BMF title here. Now, I do believe that Max Holloway can stuff the takedowns that Charles Olivera is going to shoot at him. Clearly, Charles Olivera is not going to keep the fight standing for 3 to 5 rounds or however long this fight lasts for between himself and Max Holloway. That's just not going to happen. So Max Holloway has to be alert defensively and be prepared to stuff the takedowns against one of the most craftiest submission grapplers that the UFC has ever seen. And I honestly think if he could stuff the takedowns against Charles Olivera, this could be a hot take, but I think he can cruise to a decision victory in the main event of UFC 326 if he can do that. But I think Max Holloway does honestly have the edge here. And he averages 7.2 significant strikes per minute. I just talked about that a few moments ago. But the power has clearly translated from featherweight to lightweight. And he is given the best lightweight fighter since moving up officially to this division some problems. Look at the UFC 300 fight between himself and Justin Gaethje, where he got the buzzer beater knockout, gave Justin Gaethje, a good striker, a lot of problems. Look at his final fight, his previous fight against Dustin Poirier, which was his final fight. He gave Dustin Poirier a lot of problems with the striking. And even pushed Ilia Topuria around, was pushing around the buttons, and was giving Ilia Topuria some problems when they shared the octagon with each other in 2024 with his striking. So it is very, very possible that Max Holloway could get a knockout victory here, but I think a decision is the right pick. And Max Holloway will win the counter-punching battle against Charles Olivera. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I think he's the much faster, much polished striker between himself and Charles Olivera. He's going to blitz Charles Olivera. Like I said, he can fight well in either stance, the orthodox or the southpaw stance, very well, very comfortably. He's going to be the aggressor, fighting coming forward, forcing Charles Olivera to be uncomfortable fighting off the back foot. And with the striking, with his high volume work rate, he's going to land the jabs, land the hooks, land the power kicks to the body, to the sternum, land the calf kicks to slow down Charles Olivera and make sure that he puts the power on him to soften up Charles Olivera. And I think he's going to cruise to a decision victory if he can stuff the takedowns. And I think the winner of this fight will fight the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title whenever that fight is officially announced. But I think Max Holloway is going to retain his BMF title and defeat Charles Oliveira in the main event of UFC 326.